So, you're probably all wondering, what does that guy on the other side of that gameplay footage actually look like? What, were you expecting someone else? Yeah, I know, I look kind of average. What are you gonna do? Anyways, today's filler, there's mostly just a couple things I wanted to bring up. One particular thing I wanted to talk about were these. These are 5¼ inch floppy disks. And this came from a time when, they actually were kind of floppy. I don't want to bend it too much because, I actually have a lot of these things and they actually all still work. Yeah, I got a whole bunch of them, as you can see. But anyways, the reason why I wanted to talk about 5¼ inch discs is because as a result of this particular web show that I've been doing, Ancient DOS Games, I suspect a lot more people are going to start looking online for old DOS games to try, and this is something you need to be careful of, because actually reading one of these in a modern system is virtually impossible. There's a couple of reasons why this is something that is going to be really hard to do. The first reason is that if you actually get a 5¼ inch drive, good luck getting it into a modern system. A modern computer generally doesn't have the required hookups or anything to even recognize the drive. Even if you manage to make some strange connection or something that actually got the drive working somewhat, the BIOS for the motherboard is probably not going to recognize it. And even if it did, good luck getting the operating system to recognize it. So yeah, getting one of these working in a modern computer is pretty much impossible. Your only other option really is to have an old system that can read 5¼ inch drives or has the hookup to have a 5¼ inch drive in there. But then comes the other problem. You see, a lot of these games came out during a time where the copy protection was based on actually having the sectors formatted in such a way that only the game itself could read them, or actually having physical defects on the disk, which the game would then look for, and then if that defect was there, it would know, hey, this is the original disk. This game will run perfectly. So if you copy the files to something else and try to run them, it's not going to see this disk, the game's not going to run. So unless you have a way of getting around the copy protection, you're never going to get the files from these disks working. So yeah, I recommend if you actually go looking for old 80s DOS games, don't buy them on these, buy them on these. And yeah, I actually have both kinds. A lot of games that came out in the 80s actually came out on both discs in the same box. So chances are if you can find them on here, you can find them on here. So that's the one thing I wanted to talk about. The other thing I wanted to mention was a particular website I came across. Now, when you go hunting for DOS games online, you're probably going to find a whole bunch of abandonware websites. And abandonware is generally something I recommend people steer clear of simply because of the ambiguous legal state of abandonware. But this one particular website I came across, the author has actually gone out of his way to get in touch with the authors of these different shareware games and convince them to release the full versions of their games for free. So there's actually a selection of games on this guy's website where you can download the full versions, free and legal. Legal. That's the key word here. So this website is called the RGB Classic Games, and you can find it at www.classicdosgames.com, which I'll have a little thing for up in the corner there. And it's not just that kind of stuff. You can also find free games that have always been freeware. You can find the original shareware versions of games, or you can even find information about how to get the full versions of particular shareware games that are available there. There's over 300 games there that you can choose from, and not nearly as many of those are shareware turned to freeware, but there's some good examples there. Cybersphere, which is an excellent breakout game, which I actually reviewed on the Ancient DOS Games. It's episode number 6. Abuse, great platformer game where you actually shoot at things by pointing and clicking, yet it's still a platformer. What else is there? Skyroads. Skyroads is a unique game where you're just this vehicle jumping across tracks, and it's actually really difficult, so maybe you want to steer clear of that one. Sango Fighter is a fighting game that's not too terribly. It's pretty much a Street Fighter ripoff, but it's got some interesting points in terms of the graphical presentation. Dark Ages, old platformer from Apogee. That's about all I can think of at the moment. You can find a lot of stuff there, so I recommend you take a visit, and you'll find lots of DOS games to try. And it even has the option of playing the DOS games directly in your browser. So if you don't know how to work DOSBox, or don't generally want to configure with it, or want to save downlink for if you actually really want it, then there you go. You can play it right in your browser. So that's all I wanted to talk about. So stay tuned for episode 11 of Ancient DOS Games. What am I going to do for the hint, though? Oh, I got it. It's like Spy Hunter, but not Spy Hunter. Any ideas? Stay tuned for episode 11 of Ancient DOS Games and find out. And now, if you'll excuse me, you get to see the back of my chair again.